Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, fight fans. Welcome to the horror show. You got Jaime and Fuego here with another review here for everybody. Stoked that you are here, even if I am solo for this one. I had checked this out a couple of weeks ago in the midst of the quarantine and just trying to find other things to watch. This had hit VOD maybe like a month, maybe 2 months ago, something like that. But yeah, in the midst of all of us being indoors, and it's Carlo Madero Davis, I believe, but he's the writer-director of this particular film, and it's called Swallow, and it's one that we had done a trailer reaction for at one particular point here on the show, and it's essentially about a just soon-to-be housewife who is, just stuck at home in this, new rich partnership and stuff, and she's bored. She has very little to do as the husband is going out to, working and doing his thing and so on and so forth, and so she just starts swallowing weird things, and that's essentially the extent of the premise that I can really mention without getting into like super spoilery stuff, but I will at least give a little bit more information once I tackle the story. But despite being just me, we're going to do all of this in the proper order, just overall impressions, a little bit more about the story without going into too much divulging, and then also acting, effects, and things of that nature. So overall impressions, this didn't absolutely wow me, and also it didn't really gross me out like I've seen some people mention it did. There's definitely some unsettling aspects to it, and solid enough performance from our leading lady, but it was kind of predictable as things went on, and we've seen these stories about just the housewife in the rich relationship who has the oppressive parents, and she feels just kind of trapped and stuff, and she's very mousy, and but you do sympathize and feel for her, and so overall it didn't wow me, and yet it was solid enough, and it was not as unsettling as like a couple other reviews I've seen, like Stuckman and a few other people were like, this movie was just, very off-puttingly disgusting. And so I don't know, maybe I just have more of a stomach for this sort of stuff. Maybe I'm more desensitized because of all the things that we've watched and reviewed on here. But yes, so solid, but nothing that I would really necessarily warrant spending like $6 or $7 on VOD like I did. If it shows up on a streaming service like a Shudder or Prime or Netflix or Hulu or whatever, then I would say, check it out, if not for just kind of the oddness of the concept, but really it wasn't incredibly memorable. So just segueing back to the story is once again, about just this very just mousy, quiet woman starting to get stir crazy as to the time of being a newlywed continues, but yet being neglected, being at home, and yet also the pressure to like produce an heir from these rich and overbearing in-laws that she has at this particular point. And so as you see from the trailers, if I recall correctly, she does indeed start swallowing strange things, but then she does become pregnant, and there are potentials for the pregnancy to be complicated because of what she starts swallowing. It starts out innocently enough with like weird little tacks and stuff, but then it gets weirder. We're talking like little screwdrivers. We're talking a battery at one particular point. So it's almost like a upping the ante, sort of thing. Almost like in I don't know, it's when crazy like super sex deviant fiend peeps are just like, I need more and crazier things, and choke me longer or whatever. That's just a poor example, but nonetheless it is just, it builds upon itself, and it has to get more and more extreme with her to just get that satisfaction, I guess. And I'm not going to spoil third act or finales or anything like that, but after there are some just fears of complications with said pregnancy from her, swallowing this weird stuff, she is essentially scrutinized and kind of on lockdown even more so from this family, and it just boils down to how far she's willing to rebel and what she is going to do, how much she's willing to stand up for herself. But you also really, she's kind of a nut if she's going to be doing something like this, at least in the way that I looked at the story, and you sympathize with her, but yet you also like there's sympathy and there's empathy, and there's just different levels of that sort of viewpoint, and you also do realize that this woman is a little nuts to a degree. And so her performance, though, to segue into the acting, is good, and yet to have that kind of different angles of feeling bad for her, just but also thinking, God, what the hell is wrong with this girl? That does take a little bit of gravitas, and she does lead the film very well. And yet the others around her are other leads that kind of come in and come out of the situation. They are typically one note. The husband doesn't exude a lot of redeeming qualities, and he plays that well. You can tell he's compassionate to a degree, but yet it's really like, this is my wife, and she needs to produce for me, and she needs to. He's very much like keep her under his thumb. So it's not like his is a nuanced performance where you think he cares to a degree, but then he has some schmucky sensibilities and maybe some misconceptions about what a partner and what a wife is supposed to be. The in-laws are also just very, very much caricature of, they seem to mean well at first, but they're also very judgmental. And the fact that, she came out of kind of nothingness, as opposed to being from some prestiged, lineage or family or privilege or anything like that. They constantly harp on her that, she's very lucky to have married their son, and that in some ways they're not sure what her son sees in him, and they're in just this marriage. And so I don't know, they're one note, but they're still effective in the small bits of just backing up the son as to just that dynamic and stuff that we have seen before in all of its tropiness. Also, this is not a film, as we segue into effects, that was as brutal as I thought it would be. It's more of the suggestively brutal in a lot of ways, especially when she starts, swallowing all these different things. And so it's really just if the concept grosses you out as far as going really into nastiness of body horror or other things of that nature. But so don't come in expecting a super gore fest. It's more so just to make you unsettled with just the idea of everything. But it's very slickly shot. All of the different close-ups and all of the different weird little things that she is consuming over the course of the film. I mean, it's solidly done. I mean, Carlos does a very good job of actually putting this together with his cinematographer and everything. So it's a very slick, glossy looking movie, and you can tell that it was done on probably a smaller budget. So that's also props to the people behind the filmmaking process here. But score, nothing that's gonna absolutely blow you away. It has a nice, just kind of surreal, very subtle, unoverbearing, but little bit of, dread and building brooding spookiness. But it's not like an immediately memorable score that you will be like, damn, if there is copies of it floating around on Spotify or something, or a vinyl or anything of that nature. No, it's not one that you would seek out and then just throw on and listen to during a writing session or anything of that nature. And I guess that's really the extent of this kind of build as a body horror. But once again, it's more so in the storytelling than in the actual punch and effect and the delivery of something beyond the unsettling premise and the execution. And it really just boils down to more so, is this woman going to break from the constraints that have presumably caused her to start doing this in the first place, the boredom, the stir craziness, and all of that other stuff. So yeah, once again, decent performances and well shot, and but I don't know, it just didn't wow me the way I had really hoped that it would, because that initial trailer that all of us reacted to on here, we were just like, oh my lord, we were just totally grossed out and just very turned off by that particular premise. And so maybe based on that, I thought it was going to go a little bit more hardcore, extreme, whatever, and it didn't. It ended up being more so than anything just that just dynamic with her, and just having this family that is really using and manipulating her to a degree and has driven her to do these really, really silly things. But then again, it does take a special type of person to think that that is what's going to bring them some sort of strange gratification, because as she's talking to her therapist at one point, she does say swallowing all of these odd objects that are very bad for her does bring her some sort of strange pleasure. So I don't know, to each their own, I suppose, but that's my thoughts on 2019's Swallow. And I have been Jaime Fuego, and we extend a grande gracias if you were tuning into this review here on The Horror Show. If you would like to actually tell us what to review, we do have that option if you go in the comments, the description below. And just sign up for the Patreon, where between all of the different tiers tiers that we have. You can request movies for us to review. You can ask for commentary stuff. We even have a larger bit of a donation if you feel so cool and inclined, which has a boogie box where we send you some of the swag that we get every single month from different people within the horror community that we are connected to. So yes, specifically curated by us here on The Horror Show. And yep, like, share, subscribe, do all that awesomeness. And yeah, Fright fans, until next time, remember to stay scared and watch more horror movies.